Have you ever stopped to wonder if the choices you make, what you eat, who you love, where you go, are really yours? Or are you just a passenger, watching your brain pretend to be in control? It's one of the oldest questions in philosophy, and one of the newest obsessions in neuroscience, because science is starting to whisper something profoundly uncomfortable. You don't choose. You're chosen by your brain. Let's explore the unsettling truth behind one of the biggest illusions in human life: free will. Part 1. The comforting lie we all believe. We all like to think of ourselves as the authors of our lives, that every decision, from the food we eat to the person we marry, springs from conscious choice. It's comforting, isn't it, to believe you are in control? It gives meaning to guilt, pride, ambition, and the entire idea of morality itself. But what if that sense of control is just a story your brain tells after the decision is already made? Part 2. The experiment that changed everything. In the 1980s, neuroscientist Benjamin Libet conducted a simple but revolutionary experiment. He asked participants to flick their wrist whenever they felt like it, and to note the exact moment they decided to move. Meanwhile, he measured their brain activity. The results? The brain's readiness potential, the electrical signal that prepares the body for movement, fired almost half a second before the person consciously decided to move. Let that sink in. Your brain decides before you decide. Libet's experiment shook science, philosophy, and religion all at once, because if the brain acts first and consciousness only follows, then what does that make your free will? Maybe an illusion. Part 3. The illusion of the conscious pilot. Imagine your mind as an airplane. You think you're the pilot, choosing direction, altitude, and speed. But what if you're just a passenger watching the controls move, believing you're in charge, when the autopilot has already set the course? That's how modern neuroscience sees consciousness, not as the decision maker, but as the narrator. The conscious self doesn't drive the car, it just explains after the fact why the car turned left. You think, I chose to call my friend. I decided to buy that shirt. But brain scans show that milliseconds before that thought, your neurons had already started firing toward that outcome. Your consciousness isn't the commander, it's the commentator. Your brain, the invisible puppet master. Every choice you make is built on layers of invisible influences. Your genetics decide your temperament. Your childhood decide your emotional triggers. Your hormones decide your cravings. Your environment decides your opportunities. Even your mood changes how moral or logical you feel. What you call choice might just be the sum of 1,000 invisible forces whispering inside your brain. When you crave junk food, it's not willpower that fails, it's dopamine that wins. When you lash out in anger, it's not your decision, it's your amygdala hijacking control. When you fall in love, it's not fate, it's oxytocin, serotonin, and early attachment patterns running the show. You think you're thinking, but much of the time, you're just reacting. So, are we all just robots? This is where most people panic. If everything is predetermined by biology and physics, Are we just puppets? Programmed meat machines? Not quite. Because even if the initial impulse isn't consciously chosen, awareness can change the outcome. Think of it like this. Your brain may pull the strings, but awareness gives you the power to cut them. You can't stop the first thought that appears in your head, but you can choose how to respond to it. That's where a new kind of free will exists, not in initiation, but in intervention. You might not choose the spark, but you can choose whether to let it start a fire. Part 6. The two levels of you. Inside you, there are two minds. One is automatic, fast, emotional, ancient. It handles survival, habits, and instincts. This is the part that flinches, desires, and reacts before you can think. The other is reflective, slower, logical, aware. This is the part that questions, pauses, and can override the first. Psychologists call them System 1 and System 2. Most of your day runs on System 1, the autopilot. You brush your teeth, drive, scroll, eat, barely conscious of it. But the moments that define growth, restraint, empathy, self-control, happen when System 2 wakes up. So maybe the question isn't, do we have free will, but rather, how often do we use it? Part 7. The Science of Prediction. Neuroscientists can now predict your choices seconds before you make them using brain scans. In 2008, researchers at the Max Planck Institute found they could tell which button a person would press up to 7 seconds before the person consciously decided. 7 seconds. That means your brain is already in motion while your conscious mind is still thinking about what to do. It's like watching a movie that your brain has already written and believing you're the screenwriter. And yet, even if the script is written, awareness lets you edit a few lines. Part 8. The Philosophical Fallout. If free will is an illusion, what happens to morality, to justice, to regret? If someone commits a crime and their brain made them do it, are they still guilty? Neuroscientists and philosophers are still wrestling with that question, because even if the brain makes the first move, society still needs accountability, not as punishment, but as protection. You might not be responsible for the thoughts that appear in your head, but you are responsible for what you do with them. So maybe morality isn't about freedom, it's about awareness. The awareness to choose compassion over impulse, growth over repetition, understanding over judgment. Part 10. The Paradox of Freedom. Here's the paradox. Even if free will doesn't truly exist, believing in it makes life better. Studies show that people who don't believe in free will become more impulsive, more aggressive, and less motivated. When you think you're a puppet, you stop trying to steer. And maybe the illusion of control is a useful illusion, a beautiful lie that keeps us striving, growing, and creating meaning even in a deterministic world. Because without the feeling of choice, we'd collapse into apathy. And maybe, just maybe, that illusion is the secret ingredient that keeps humanity alive. Part 10. The Conscious Revolution. What neuroscience is really showing us isn't that we have no control, but that true control begins after awareness. Every time you pause before reacting, you prove that you're more than biology. Every time you forgive instead of retaliate, you show that consciousness can rise above chemistry. Every time you reflect on your own patterns, you reclaim the steering wheel. Maybe free will isn't absolute freedom, maybe it's relative freedom. The power to transcend your programming one decision at a time. That's not illusion, that's evolution. So, are you free? Not completely, but you are conscious. And that might be something even more powerful. Because even if the universe wrote your first draft, you still get to edit the ending. If this video made you question reality, give it a like. It helps more people discover the truth about how the mind works. Comment below. Do you believe in free will, or is it all just brain chemistry? And make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into neuroscience, psychology, and the hidden side of human behavior. Until next time, stay curious, stay conscious, and remember, the mind may not be free, but awareness is.